Hi, I'm Sylvie from HR.com, and I'll be your webcast host today. We're happy you could join today's webcast, 5 Key Items HR Should Consider Before Buying HR Technologies, sponsored by Harbinger Group and presented by Neville Postwala, Subodh Bide, and Jami John. This webcast has been pre-approved for 1 HRCI and 1 SHRM credit. Please be sure to attend the complete webcast in order to receive your credits. Throughout the webcast, you're welcome to submit your questions using the Q&A tab on your controls, and we'll do our best to answer them during the session. It's now my pleasure to turn it over to today's presenters.
Thank you, Sylvie. Thank you for that nice introduction. And good morning to all the attendees. It's a pleasure to get a chance to present this topic in front of you. And thank you so much, HR.com, for giving us this opportunity. In today's webcast, Subodh Bide, I'm joined by Neville Postwala and Jomi John. So Neville, he has over 2 decades of experience of handling different HR teams in large organizations in services industry. And Jomi, she's one of our senior analysts and researchers at Harbinger Group. And as a part of her role, she interacts with different HR managers, with different technology providers, with different learning companies, and she tries to understand how they are going about doing their business, what challenges they face, and so on. So we thought that having Neville and Jomi on this call would really help us understand what these 5 key items are and what are some of the other aspects when it comes to choosing technology. So very quickly about the session, if we start from the end. So at the end, what you will get to know is why is HR product selection so important all of a sudden? Then how do you choose between what to build, what to buy, or do a combination of 2 things? Then we'll talk about what are the 5 key parameters that you need to evaluate irrespective of what you decide to do with your decision about whether to build or buy. And lastly, Jomi, she will help us understand what are some of the gaps that might still exist in your dream setup and how customizations can help with bridging such gaps. So before we get into the topic, let's do a quick poll to understand how all of your roles are aligned in your organization. So Sylvie, if you can bring up the first poll. The question is, what role do you play in HR product selection in your organization? It is a multiple choice question. You can select more than one option. So we'll give it about 15-20 seconds for everyone to vote. And you could always select the checkboxes on the poll window. And if you're unable to do so, you can put it in the chat. All right, so I think all of you must be seeing the results. So we have a lot of evaluators in the group today. Several of them are influencers. Some of them also decide. And we also have people who are not involved in the selection process, but I think this will be a good learning for them. So let's move to, we can close the poll and let's move to a very important question, which is sort of going to set the background for this entire conversation. So why is HR product selection so important now? What exactly has changed? So I'll invite Jomi to sort of share her thoughts from the different research that she has been doing, the different conversations that she gets into. So Jomi, help us understand why this is so important.
Sure, Subodh. And thanks for asking that question because I feel that this question has been playing on everyone's mind ever since the pandemic struck. And I feel the answer has 3 important dimensions. The first thing is that HR goals itself are changing. The second is that the technology landscape is changing. And the third one is this entire situation of the post-COVID world and the imperatives that it has got for HR. So I'm going to be discussing each one of these. So let's start with each one of them one by one, and we'll get into the details as the discussion progresses. So HR goals, why are they changing? So over the last 5 to 10 years, and a lot of you may agree with me, is that the entire perception of the HR function has changed in the organization. Um, from a function that was needed to do, get the paperwork done or ensuring that compliance needs were met. Today, the HR function has gotten disrupted. um, the role of a CHRO also has gotten disrupted. So, today the CHRO sits with the CEO at the table, and is the CEO's confidant, and also discusses the dreams and aspirations of the organization, and how does that function, how it could lead that organization towards profitability. So if you can imagine a CHRO a few years back, that person, he or she may be, speaking about promotion of diversity and inclusivity. Today, the same person may be needed to practice diversity and inclusivity in the organization via culture, values, and the other things that get into the true blood of the organization. Earlier, maybe the CHRO was a sort of managing talent. Today, the same CHRO would be needed to transform talent in a way that aspects of leadership are maintained, a core portions of how the career ladder can be developed, and so on can happen. And most importantly, I think what is really evident is earlier the CHRO would just be a technology user, just like somebody else in the organization. And today, the same person would be looked at as a technology innovator and is responsible for the way work has been done via technologies in this entire period of remote work. So I think that's the reason why I've put strategy right at the top, and that is one of the most important goals for the CHRO today. The next in line is collaboration. And in order to just complete the strategy that I just spoke about, the CHRO today needs to collaborate with different organizations with different departments in the organization, um, and as opposed to what he or she would do years back and just be very function focused, if I may say so. So today the CHRO may be teaming up with the chief medical officer to ensure that uh, you know uh, employees are in zones that are safe, assessing the risks that are associated with a particular zone, and so on. Or the CHRO may be involved with working with the IT and systems team to ensure that all onboarding workflows are working well for employees, um, and other HR workflows within the organizations are also automated. So that was collaboration for you. Um, in this, I just mentioned how this aspect of IT and systems comes into play, which brings in an important part about productivity. Earlier, the CHRO was perhaps a surveyor of this data and be able to assess what is the efficiency of the work that is being done. But today, um, the CHRO needs to have access to all that productivity data that ensures that work is getting done efficiently, and that the workforce is engaged, and can take the organization to the business outcomes that it really needs during that period. Um, the very next one is branding, and that is something that I personally stand for, and I feel that HR is such an important part to play in this. We have seen, especially during this, ever since this pandemic struck, different organizations have taken so many different measures, so that practices that they are doing in their organization, their culture, their strategy, safety measures, flexible working policies. All of that is available to the world as a whole, and I think that plays a very big role and is a huge propeller in terms of attracting talent, um, better customers for the future, or even future investors. Who knows? So branding is another role that has evolved. The next two, which is innovation and employee engagement, I think these are connected, because I feel if you've seen some of the most successful companies in the world today have really innovative HR policies. So think about Google, think about Netflix, um, maybe FedEx. All of these have some sort of hiring and sourcing and structures within their performance measurement that ensure that they're headed towards growth, and that shows that in a way that innovative HR practices is directly correlated to the growth of the company. So that's another thing. And why is that related to employee engagement? And why is technology important there? Is this word called employee engagement that was prevalent earlier has now taken a new form called as employee experience. And what is employee experience? Is the sum of all the parts of the experience or the interfaces that an employee goes through during his or her work at any department in the organization. And I feel that interface is technology during this time of remote work. And that is the segue to my next section. And the second dimension of this new change is that technology itself is changing. And I think it's a no-brainer in this world. But how does that play into the HR technology world? It's not like the HR world has not seen technology before. We have seen how huge, very good HCM platforms were created so that manual processes got automated, and a whole lot of modules were sort of brought in together so that all these processes could work together in a single database as well. And soon enough it was discovered that they need to be integration ready to talk to other systems. Data driven HR was another possibility that came out, and people felt that metrics and creating a culture around data was extremely important. And that brings along with it security, faster processing, and all the aspects that the technology world is moving towards also come into play. But how does this connect to HR? I think there is this entire new, if I may say, facet called as work technology that is evolving. What is work technology? It is the set of tools and technologies that any employee, and that includes HR, by the way, to get work done. So for a developer, it could be an IDE tool. For an HR manager, it could be a workforce management tool. For a recruiter, it could be a sourcing tool. And anybody who's trying to connect with anybody else, there could be Teams, there could be Slack, there could be Skype, and all these methods of communication across the entire organization just to collaborate. That is this entire space of work technology, and I think the future of technology is integrating all these aspects that were earlier there in HR technology, combined with this aspect of remote work. So that's where I feel the technology part is evolving. Third, and the most critical part is something that that's the HR world was not, rather not HR, just everyone was not prepared for, but it is something that has been added on to what we already were dealing with. And it's high time that we have to figure out a way to be prepared for this. And I think the key is to ensure how can all these aspects be integrated into work without causing additional workloads, and help HR focus on strategy instead of the daily operational things. So one, I think I have listed it down for everybody's view over here. But the very first one is what I've seen that a lot of HR folks are talking about is the whole back to work equation. A lot of us is still working from home, and I think at least a majority of us are. Some of them need to go to office. But what is keeping HR folks thinking is how do we prepare employees when they need to come back to their workplace and shift from the entire remote part to the whole face-to-face interaction. Earlier we would call something, there were concepts such as onboarding. The shift could be reboarding and making employees aware of how they can use the workplace back again for face-to-face interactions. How can safety measures be taken? How can employees be made aware of these safety measures? So I think learning and training is an essential part of these tools, of this particular aspect. Work from home, employee well-being are kind of interrelated, as we all have figured out by now. Is that the whole aspect of productivity and tools that measure productivity and employee activity without being too intrusive, because I think that works against the organization in some ways, and the whole security aspect that plays into the whole equation. Um, and there is also this whole play of wellness and employee well-being, including mental health, that needs to be taken care of. um, Something that's coming in the middle of all these aspects is what I have seen is working along with budgets. It's not something that the HR team is new to, but what I feel is, especially in technology selection, since there are so many IT systems and technology systems around this, the HR team needs to be cognizant of the fact that the money that is invested brings along with it equivalent return on investment as far as business outcomes are concerned. I think that is critical. And in the the slides that will follow further in our discussion will give us options in which we can make sure that these aspects can be taken, or we'll be covering those steps further as well. I think I've spoken enough about productivity and what it does for us. The next is reskilling and redeployment. Is how I think as our businesses are transforming and reinventing themselves just for better outcomes. I think skill sets of employees also should match those business goals. That's a no-brainer. But how do we make sure that the current technology systems cater to this new change? Are systems prepared to know what is the current skill inventory and restructure learning for those new skill sets? I think learning tools need to be revamped to make sure that this change happens well. The last and the most important thing that I think has taken the entire world by storm, and especially the United States, is diversity and inclusivity, where it is an onus, and I think an organization is just a reflection of the society that we stay in, honestly. So I feel this is important. And so fairness in the workplace, ensuring that our workplace is free of all biases, uh, and technology is no exception. So whether it is through collaboration tools where you're sending direct messages to people, is that free from biases? Are sourcing tools free of biases that may cause hindrance to certain aspects of society to be sidelined? Or it could be just something isolation caused because of the pandemic to us, people who may be quarantined, or people who may be at risk. I think all these factors come into play just because we're still human beings at the end of the day, and we need to ensure that our workplace is a safe place in that way. So I think I have covered these three important dimensions of why it makes it more and more important for technology to cover all these aspects. And therefore, my suggestion to you as HR leaders of tomorrow is to select your HR products with caution, to make sure that it not only does what you did yesterday or probably pre-pandemic, but also to prepare you for all these aspects that I just spoke about. I think that is something that, I know it's a long answer to a short question, but this is what I had to say.
Fabulous, Domi. I think thanks for sharing such in-depth information about how the world is looking at it, and it's really like three different things coming together and sort of paving the way for HR to get strategically involved in the company's better good, and at the same time leave the technology to do its work and ensure that businesses are kept running very smoothly. And so that sort of brings us to the important point in terms of how do you go about getting such technologies? You buy them or you build them. So as we move to the next section, we can remember this important selection, uh, these points as we go into the next part. So let's move to the next poll. And Sylvie, if you could bring up this poll. So the question is, what is your organization's mandate for HR product or service procurement? So you can uh, select the best option that suits what you have heard or what you have experienced in your organization. And again, you can select it right on the poll window itself, so your poll gets recorded. All right. So, yeah, I think all of you must be seeing the response. So, 43% of you say that you do it, you directly buy it from the market. The next is most of you say that you do it through an outsourced partner. Uh, Build internally. I think I'm glad to see some of the organizations also heading towards that. So it's great to see this, and thank you for sharing your insights on this. And with that, let's head into the next segment. So, how do you choose between whether to build something or whether to buy something? Now, this is a question that almost all our customers, all the companies that we consult, they come and ask us, like, how should we go about? Should we build it? Should we buy it? And our answer to them is there are five deciding factors that you need to consider when it comes to taking this decision. So the first one, important one, is requirement. Are you clear with your requirements? Is this something that you have discovered recently? Is this something that you have been thinking about for a while? Is it a routine requirement or is it a very unique requirement? In the later slides, we will see some very unique requirements and what kind of solution was applied to them. The second deciding factor is, of course, budget. The world revolves around money. So it's important to know how much budget you have, how much are you willing to spend year on year running that product or that technology. Have you done your ROI calculations? Are you able to put up a good report for budget approvals and so on? The third deciding factor is technical proficiency. So assume that let's assume that you buy a product. Now, do you have a team that can maintain the product, or are you going to rely on the vendor for providing those services? Let's say if you build something, do you have a team who can maintain that application, who can fix issues in it? So, do you have the technical proficiency to keep that product or that technology running? The fourth deciding factor is time to solution, or the other way to ask yourself is how long are you willing to wait without a solution? So, is this a requirement or a need that you had yesterday and you needed a solution, or is it something that you're willing to wait for some time in order to find a perfect match, something that will really give you your money's worth? So understanding how much time you're willing to wait is critical. And the fifth deciding factor is competitive advantage. So having this technology, is it going to give your organization a competitive advantage in the market, in the local market, in the national market, irrespective of that? So assume that you're you want to acquire a recruitment product and you want to have the best candidates enroll through at the best salary from the local market, and you don't want your competitor to get hold of those candidates. So do you have an AI-based technology that can give you this competitive advantage? So let's keep these 5 things in mind, because these are going to help us understand how some of the choices that were made by certain organizations in deciding whether to buy or to build. Now, let's take a look at some of the examples where we buy products all the time. So what are the cases where you really build certain custom solutions? So the first example between build versus buy is a build scenario where a company, they built an HR chatbot for their own ticketing system. The situation was such that this company, it was a tech company based out of US. They had 100,000 employees worldwide. The employees came from very diverse technical backgrounds, from very different geographies. And this company's HR team was like severely understaffed. Like each HR manager was handling perhaps like over thousands of employees. And what was happening is that they were overwhelmed with HR cases. There were several cases that were unresolved, that led to SLA violations, that led to employee frustrations, and the whole system was sort of being poisoned because of this unresolved things, this dissatisfaction. So the company, they thought of what could be the solution. So they looked at several point-based chatbot solutions, but what they realized is that none of them were suitable enough to solve all their ticketing problems. They could solve some parts of it, but not the rest. And later on, when they looked at the scale and the volume of customizations that would be required for modifying these off-the-shelf solutions, I think those were tremendous. So then obviously their requirement was so unique that they had to build something from scratch. And what they did was they built an HR chatbot ecosystem that took care of routine HR operations. So employees, they could send their requests to the bot and the bot would respond to those. Any requests that the bot was not able to handle, those were escalated to the HR managers and they would look at it. So far, it looks good. And when we looked at the result of this after a year, this is what we found. 60% of the tickets that were raised, the bot was able to handle those by itself. And the average amount of time that it took for it to resolve those was around 35 seconds. And what this ultimately resulted in is significant time saving on the HR department. And then they were able to invest this time in running some of their strategic initiatives around reskilling. And at that time, they were shifting operations from one location to another. So HR, they were able to really invest that time into that strategic movement that they were doing. So let's move to the next example. This is again an example of build versus buy. And over here, instead of building something from scratch, Neville and his team, they built something and then they integrated it with their existing ecosystem. So they were using SuccessFactors as an HRIS system. And what they struggled with was to find a perfect match for a performance management system to the unique requirements that they had. So Neville, can you share us the story of Polestar, the new performance management system that you are building?
Yeah, sure, Samod. It's great to be here, and I'm really excited to share some of my views on, why we decided to build and not buy. Yeah, so let's get into the next slide, please. So these are some of the reasons. I'm going to use the word O3 very frequently, and O3 stands for one-on-one. And we've been having an O3 app for quite a while at Harbinger. And the good thing about this is we've been able to build a solid culture of continuous feedback. We have a lot of dialogue happening between the manager and the direct. And just to throw some data at you, if you look at our O3 penetration, which is pretty much the percentage of people having at least one check-in every month, that percentage was around 85% last year, and we could move the needle to about 95% this year. So, the point is we've really developed a very strong culture of having, continuous dialogue with our employees. So that's one. The second one is we had a whole bunch of requirements, and these were really focused. And I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. So let me pop this point for now. The third one was, like Subodh said, we had a HCM. So we work with success factors. And, while the success factors application has a good performance management system, and success factors is strengthening their continuous performance management system, we felt that we had many more requirements. We wanted on-demand dashboards. We wanted, nudges. We wanted reports, on demand. And these were not really available in the current success factor system. So that was another point. We had a development team who was really excited. So when I went to the development team and told them what our requirements were, they were really geared up. They were pumped up. They were motivated. They said, we want to work on this product. And when they came out and they said, we're going to use latest technologies like Node.js or React.js, the techies became even more happy. And they said, we want to work on this product. So we had a great, high motivated performing team. Time to solution, that was something that Subodh touched upon. We didn't have too much time. We wanted to go live in just a couple of months. And, we realized that if we had to go out and evaluate products, it would take us more than that time. And even if we had to modify our existing, HCM product to get all what we wanted, I don't think we would have got everything, but it would have taken, a long time more than to us, including the whole development cycle, the whole integration with various other applications, some serious testing. That would have taken probably a little longer than, what we had in mind. And then finally, the budget. We didn't have any budget. We had not catered for any budget to buy a new software or to, integrate or to innovate our existing software. So that was a big decision for us. So, these were the 5-6 points that kind of drove us to build instead of buying. If you can move to the next one, please, Subodh. Yeah, so we had a whole bunch of requirements. The first one was that we wanted to build on the success of our previous O3 app. So like I mentioned, we had 85% O3 penetration. The needle went up to 95%. So we wanted to strengthen this. We wanted to build on this. We also wanted a system that should be conversational in nature. Plus, it should also track performance, because performance is, at the end of the day, is what matters. So our old O3 system, it had a pretty good, a conversational flavor to it. But unfortunately, it was not very strong on the feature of tracking goals. So this was really a strong requirement of ours that we had. We wanted to track our goals. So we built Polestar in such a way where we have a strong conversational flavor, but we also do some serious tracking of goals. That was the second one. We wanted to create a culture of change and engagement. We wanted to build on some skills that were great. We wanted to build a better culture. Some areas that we wanted to focus on and improve were, to enhance our accountability of our managers, to have, to have managers take more ownership, to start giving better feedback, to improve that culture of feedback, both positive and adjusting. We don't call it negative feedback, we call it adjusting feedback. We wanted managers to take better ownership of handling employee concerns or issues. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that we had as requirements to change the culture. And then there's transparency. And all the HR folks, today on today's webinar will know that this is transparency is a big area where many performance management systems fail, because normally, directs get to know their feedback, maybe once, twice, maybe, in the annual appraisal or the mid-year cycle, or maybe thrice in a year. But we all know that within that time of, 4 months, 6 months, or a year, a lot of things can change. Your manager can change, the kind of work you're changing, people who you're working with would have left the organization. So you can't go back and discuss the feedback. And what this does, it causes a whole bunch of resentment, and that builds up to a whole bunch of disengagement. We wanted Polestar to change that by being transparent, so that employees know exactly how they are doing on their goals on a very, very frequent basis, and not wait for, the 3 month or 6 month. And then, we had success factors. So success factors continues to be our main human capital management system and system of record. And we wanted Polestar to talk to success factors for all employee related information. So we built a whole bunch of integration. You can sync your personal information and other stuff. So that everything is continuously in sync. And then we wanted reports, we wanted dashboards. I'll show you a couple of dashboards as well for on-demand information. And this is where our old O3 app fell a little short. So we worked on creating some interesting dashboards. And then finally, learning and development. We wanted this to be part of the process and the part of the system and have this tracked very rigorously. So a system of coaching, of working together to set learning goals. We wanted this to happen in Polestar. So these were some of our, our very focused requirements. And if you move to the next slide, yeah, that's the home page. That's how Polestar looks. And these are screenshots, but I must tell you that we have a live running system. It's just that I'm showing you screenshots so that we can do this better and quicker. And these are some of the stuff that you'll see when you log in. So it's a vibrant page. As soon as you log in, you'll see these 3 tiles staring straight back at you. And these are tiles for, nudges. So the green one, if you see, it tells you when your last O3 was conducted. So if it's showing green, you're cool. That means your O3 happened, within the last 30 days. If not, it's going to show up as red. So that's going to be a little nudge for you to have your O3 conducted or to reach out to your manager. And if you see a little lower down, you will also see the directs that report into you. If their date shows up in green, then that's great because you're doing a great job as a manager of connecting and having dialogue, with your directs. Otherwise, it's red. And on the goals of your directs, there's another nudge feature that is there, but not for the manager. But here, if you click on send reminder, it's going to send a little notification email to your direct saying, hey, you know what, your goal has not started. And maybe it's time you started those goals. So these are some small nuggets that we have kind of working on. There are more, but this is some of them. I also believe that HR systems need to be customized and not just have a one size fit all. So we built a little bit of customization. If you see the theme on top, if you don't like the blue color, you have a palette of colors where you can change it from. So that's a bit of customization. You can schedule your O3 immediately after completing one. So there's a little calendar icon that you can see over there. And this calendar icon has been integrated with Microsoft Outlook. So you can see calendars, you can see the time, the free time or the available time. And you can, you build connectors and you can actually, schedule your O3 because it's always good not to have an O3, on the spur of the moment. Like, come on, I have some time. Let's chat and do your O3. That's not the way it really works. You have to have time. You have to prepare for the O3. And the calendar feature really helps, with that. So that's a little bit about the dashboard. If we go to the next slide, yeah, so this is about the goals. And I told you that our O3 didn't have a very strong goal tracking system. And here in Polestar, to drive performance objective, we have built in a set of default goals. So all the designations on the organization have a set of default goals and they have weightages that are assigned to them. Obviously, these are customizable by the manager based on what role the person is playing. So those are the default goals. But we also have custom goals. I mean, I could be a software engineer today, but I'm aspiring to become a technical lead maybe in the next year. So if I go and discuss it with my manager as one of my career goals, he or she, my manager may set some stretch goals for me. So the system is flexible to add, custom goals. You can see some of the attributes that we have put for a goal, like, the metrics, the start date, etc. So that's also there. And also what we are driving is that we want goals to be tracked on a very periodical basis. So if you don't track your goals on a monthly basis, the system will not let you submit your O3. So that's a kind of a check and balance we've built in Polestar, which says that, guys, you've got to measure your goals every month. You have to tell your directs how they're doing. And if you measure your goals, it's going to be visible to you. It's going to be visible to them. So we have a transparent system. And how that works is you can see the rating scale that we have got. And that throws up, each whatever rating you give, from the back end, there's an algorithm that runs and throws up a final score for that particular O3. So every month you'll see a dashboard of, 12 scores and it can tell you how you're doing in your performance. So I think, one of the requirements of transparency is being met, by this. Can we go to the next one, please? Yeah, and this is about driving, I spoke about driving a culture of accountability. And we all know that, while our directs may have some concerns and they may record in the system, the next time we open up the system, those concerns are gone because we have a fresh page, not in Polestar. So this is one area which we felt that we wanted to strengthen. So what we've done is whatever concerns get recorded into the system will get carried forward to the next O3 and the subsequent O3 unless it is closed by the manager by giving detailed comments. And by, mind you, the director, if the director is not happy with that, director can open up the concern again. So the manager has to take a lot of ownership and accountability, and that's one behavior that we're driving ahead to make sure that accountability and ownership is taken. Obviously, learning needs is really important. If we don't learn, we're going to be outdated. So we have a whole section of coaching and learning, and you can learn on various means that we have. You have a whole bunch of selections, as you can see. So while we're having the O3 and a goal is set for learning, I may say, I want to learn with Udemy. We work with Udemy as well. Or we can say, I want to work with Sprinkle Zone. I'm going to use Sprinkle Zone is our own micro-learning or nudge-based platform. So if I select Sprinkle Zone, I will get nudges. I mean, we're also building integration with this particular application and our internal chatbot. So if I select the chatbot, whenever I'm on the chatbot, it'll say, hey, you know what? You said you wanted to learn, .NET. Here are a couple of courses that you can take in .NET. So the learning happens in the flow of work. And, HR guys will know that that's a new term that is being used. We don't want to go for learning programs outside or for half-day workshop. It has to happen in the flow of work. So that is also getting driven, by Polestar. Let's go ahead, Subodh, please. Yeah, and I think this is really important because the way we give feedback can drive engagement. Feedback is different from praise. Praise is saying, hey, great job on, XYZ project. That's really not feedback, that's praise, because it's really not given with a particular intent. But when you give feedback by stating the incident or the activity, what was the impact it had, and how has that actually affected the organization or the customer, that's when it moves away from being praised and gets into the feedback zone. So instead of saying, great job on XYZ, if I were to say that, thank you for finding a critical bug on the XYZ project, and because of this, the impact is that we were able to ship the product on time, and because of this, the impact to John, or the benefit to the customer, is John, who our customer has called me and has complimented me and has given a great score on our customer satisfaction rating. So the direct exactly knows what is the behavior, what has been the impact of that particular behavior, and how has that impacted the organization or the customer. So also, you can see there's a little box that says give a badge. Another integration with success factors. Something goes well, manager says, hey, let me give you a badge. Click on that, success factors page opens up, and you can give a badge, and that go and sits on your employee profile, so anybody can see you has the view of all your badges. So this is pretty much what I wanted to share with you in the time that we had. There is much more, but I just took a couple of items of Polestar. But in case anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn and find out a little more, I'd be very happy to do that. So yeah, so I think that's what I want to share in today's webinar.
Yeah, awesome. I think thanks, Neville. I think this, I know Polestar, it is pretty vast, and I think your team got it done very quickly. So thanks for running us through this sort of a demo that you have. So let's move to the next section. So I think if you recollect, so Jomi said that it's very important that we select the technology wisely. Neville told us that you could either buy or even think of building certain options. Now, irrespective of what you decide, here are the 5 key parameters that you have to keep in mind, either when you're evaluating a technology or when you're building one. So the first one is consider that data is of supreme importance. The product that you select or the product that you design, make sure that it keeps your data secure. So your data is your organization's data, and ultimately it's your employees' data. Make sure that the data is interoperable. What it means is that the data can move between one system and another in a very flawless way. No one can really sniff into it. There is no data loss of any kind. Once you have a system, I'm sure people are going to ask you for different types of custom reports. They are going to ask you for compliance reports. Auditors are going to be behind you for all sorts of information that they might ask for. And lastly, is this data usable or is it just sitting inside the application? Can you get insights from this data? Are you able to use this data for the strategic initiatives that you're going to own now? And some of the examples where people have stressed on the importance of data is the chief security officer at Workday. He has stressed that there have to be newer standards for privacy and security, especially in this post-COVID world when organizations are going to collect different kinds of data from employees, and those have to be kept secured. There is an organization or a standards body called HR Open Standards. It's a consortium of different technology providers, and they're building a new standard for helping data being exchanged between the two systems in a very seamless and in a very easy way. So a lot of emphasis is given on data, and this is the first thing that you should keep in mind, that the data is given the utmost importance. The second element that you should keep in mind is integration. Integration has now become a fundamental need, and I think Neville gave us a couple of examples how he has integrated Polestar with success factors, with some of the other applications like Udemy and some of the chatbots that he has in the ecosystem. And that's so true, because if you look at your own HR department, I'm sure you're easily using over a dozen different products. And if these products are not talking with each other, then you're going to be stuck with a lot of file-based data exchange where you're extracting Excels and CSV files from one system, running some Excel formulas on that, changing certain values, and now you are making it ready for pushing it into the next system. Just imagine how much time you are spending over there. And that time that you have spent, it could have easily been used in an automated way, and in a real-time sense, a connector or a ready integration could have done it for you. So these integrations or these connectors, some of the applications, they give those ready-made. Several of those you can custom build them. So these are some things where you configure them once and you can use it any number of times. They are fully automated. You don't need to pay attention towards what they are doing. And you can have various ways in which data can be exchanged. So you can do them so that whenever an event happens, the data is exchanged, or whatever the data synchronization happen once in a day or once in a week, and so on. And there are several examples of integrations that are running around. So job boards nowadays integrate with Glassdoor to get the employer ratings and post them next to the job. Skillsoft, they have a product called as Percipio, which is a content aggregation tool, and it connects with SuccessFactors LMS. So now, along with external content, it's also able to get content from the company's LMS and show it right next to it. And Harbinger's experience in integration has been pretty extensive. When I talk with the integrations team, I think the current count is that they have crossed 60 connectors, which were custom built to integrate different kinds of HR systems. So connect payroll with HRIS, connect payroll with a benefits system. You can connect learning management system with performance systems, and so on. So integration is the second key element that you should keep in mind. The third one is, are these products, are these technologies designed to become self-serve, and are you having a lot of help around so that you can help yourself without having to rely on implementation partners? Because in today's situation, when everyone is working remotely, you don't have time for lengthy implementation cycles. So the answer to that is to have systems that have built-in setups, that have certain workflow templates that you can just drag and drop, make certain changes to those, and get those up and running, like literally like a snap of a finger. Are there wizards that you can use? So can you literally drag a text box onto a form, just give it a name, and it becomes a part of the real form that would go out to your employees? Are there ready-made reports that the application comes with? And at the same time, if you need any help when you're doing all of the above, do you have access to a user community who can just help you out? So these are fellow users from different organizations who do that. And some of the examples that I love to talk about is Salesforce. I think they have really evolved from a sales product into a platform. And literally the whole product, it comes ready out of the box. Everything is wizard driven. There are no customizations that are required. I was involved in implementing Salesforce in our organization, and I come from a technical background, but I had to write 0 lines of code. No technical knowledge was required in order to set it up for a team of over 20 sales engineers and account managers. And Harbinger's technical team, they have helped several companies build their own products, which were equipped with page designers, with wizards, with workflow designers. And all of these are made to ensure that workflows can be designed without having any technology knowledge. So this is the third aspect. Is the product self-serve? Is it able to help you build the important workflows that you require? The fourth one is the whole pricing and billing needs. And I think Jomeshi mentioned about budget. Neville, he mentioned about budget. So what we hear quite a lot is that the whole per employee per month pricing, it is visualized as being too rigid, and everyone needs flexible pricing. They need to showcase certain ROI reports to their managers because they are selecting technology. So what are the returns on those? And the idea is to prefer going with an add-on fee kind of a model where every additional component that you take, any additional usage that you do, you would be charged for it, but you won't be charged upfront. And in today's economy, when you really need to be very watchful, some of you might be running the operations on shoestring budget. I think these are the things that will help you. And one of the examples is Atlassian. So this is an Australian company. Some of you might have used Jira or Confluence. These are collaboration tools that this company provides. So these products, they come with a very basic fee and they work end to end. But the moment you want to add more components to it, they have small pricings that you can add on to your monthly billing and then use those. So being wary of the pricing part of it and making sure that it is flexible enough, that's the fourth element that you should consider. And the fifth and the last one is about building app extensions and having access to marketplaces. So I think Jomishi mentioned about workplace technologies or work tech. So this is what it's all about. Do you have the applications that you are going to have? Do they give plugins into your enterprise platforms? Do they facilitate better in-context interaction so that your users use it in a better way? This is a bit complex to understand, so maybe the examples on the right-hand side will perhaps help you. So Cornerstone Learning Management System, they have a plugin for Zoom. So now whenever I need to host a course for someone, I don't need to log out of Cornerstone, log into Zoom, set up a meeting over there, then send those details. I don't need to do that. My learners, all they need to do is just click on start this course and they enter that Zoom session automatically in one click of a button. So a lot of context switching is avoided over here. Yes, Neville.
So both, while you were talking about this, a thought just came to my mind. In the calendar scheduler that we have integrated that with Zoom, so you don't have to set up a fresh meeting. It just takes you to your Zoom account and syncs you up.
Oh, that's so helpful. That's so fabulous, and I wish all the applications would have such easy integrations. And I think similarly, going to your point, Neville, Better Works, they have built a chatbot for Microsoft Teams that does employee surveys. And I think, Neville, you mentioned about our own chatbot. I think it integrates with Outlook, Microsoft Outlook, to answer some of the questions related to HR policies. So the whole idea is that you have to visualize that your applications, your solutions, they can find better usage if they have plugins into some of the corporate products, corporate collaboration platforms that you're using. So with this, I think we'll move into the last section, and this is all about understanding how customizations play a role. So assume that you are able to build or you're able to buy a product that is a great match for your dream setup for your requirements, but there are going to be certain gaps in that. There's no perfect match, and this is where customizations will help you. This is where custom components will help you. So let's bring up poll number 3, and I'm sure this poll will give an opportunity to all of you who must have experienced handling of such custom requirements at some point of time. So the question is, how does your organization handle customization requirement? Again, this is a multiple choice question. You can select more than one option. All right, so I think the highest vote is for building these customizations through an internal team. Good 54% of you have said that, and the next one is through implementation partners. So thank you for sharing that feedback. And let's very quickly understand from Jomi in terms of what her experience has been when it comes to bridging these gaps through custom requirements.
Thanks, Subodh. I think the possibilities are many, especially since the HR world is used to procuring and buying best of breed solutions that either do a specific job or like a huge bulk of the job. But I just stress upon the most frequently used ones, the ones that I have been asked for. So the very first one is enablement through integration options. So I think the general trend is to procure large HCM systems or HRIS systems, which gets a lot of the bulk of the work done. But there are specialized point systems such as employee engagement systems, learning tools, learning experience systems that need to be quickly plugged with such HRIS platforms, so that the single system of record actually it could be an employee sync, it could be um, you know data of how much an employee has learned and so on, and that can be enabled through integration. The second one is through having mobile apps that are personalized to employees, especially in this time during the pandemic where people need to be tracked, employees need to be tracked, their health information needs to be tracked, their location needs to be tracked, and also a central place through which company updates can be sent to employees. The next one is something that I have noticed that organizations who do not want to invest in developing mobile apps actually go back to using these collaboration tools such as Teams, Slack, Zoom, and the apps that have been enabled through these platforms, so that they can leverage the mobile apps that these platforms provide. The next one that I want to talk about, micro learning platforms that have been created so that an entire course doesn't need to be pushed through an employee, but tiny nuggets of training information can be pushed through. And the last but not the least is an integrated layer over and above all HR layers, irrespective of whether that system has been integrated or not. That helps HR access and generate insights over collated data and develop metrics like that you just spoke about, like for example, cost per hire, retention rate, and so many other things. So I think there are many more such possibilities, but I've just built on a few. In case there is anything else that you folks are interested in knowing about as to how such gaps can be built, please feel free to write to me.
All right, thanks, Jomi. And in the interest of time, let's quickly wrap through this session. So here is a summary of what we have seen so far. So uh, the key thing is focus on your HR strategic goals and let the technologies take care of the operations part. Consider all operations. Don't be focused only on buying. Building and integrating might be more affordable and more better suited for your requirements. Then we looked at the 5 key requirements that you should look for in these technologies: data, integration, a self-serve nature, flexibility on the pricing part, and the ability of having app-based extensions. And if there are gaps that are left in your ecosystem, then there are always custom solutions to fill those. So very quickly, Harbinger Systems, we help organizations with their product engineering services. We do data engineering help as well. And we are supported by a rich consulting team. And we are happy to have Jomi from this team represent us on this session. So with that, I would hand it over to Sylvie for questions if we have time left for it. Sylvie, over to you.
Okay, well, we are over time already and the next session has started, so we're just going to wrap it up. And if anybody does have any questions, please do approach the fine folks at Harbinger. Their information is showing up there. So thank you on behalf of HR.com to our sponsor, Harbinger Group, and today's presenters for this great information you shared with us.